welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Quest, with me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by Spirit. I am very excited to share my gift with you and empower you to embrace your gift. So if you define yourself as a spiritual human being, then you've come to the right place. So prepare yourself now for an amazing journey where your soul will lead the way. Hi there, and welcome to Spiritual Quest, always guided by Spirit. Today's conversation can go anywhere, and I'm excited to see where we end up. You see, my guest is a trailblazer in the field of human consciousness. He founded the Institute for Quantum Consciousness to embrace the synchronicities between some of the core principles of quantum physics and expanded states of awareness. His last book, Quantum Consciousness: Journey Through Other Realms, documents the philosophies, mythologies, and case studies behind the quantum consciousness experience, an out-of-body journey that embraces alternate realities, parallel lives, and interdimensional consciousness. Pete Smith was the president of Michael Newton Institute for 10 years. He is a contributing author to Memories of the Afterlife, The Little Book of LBL, and Wisdom of Souls, and is a much sought-after speaker in the field of consciousness beyond the body. Pete created the Here Comes the Light 2028 discussion groups and the Transcendence Adventure, which is a self-paced program using meditative practices and channeled artwork by Pelevan, designed to transcend mental health challenges. He travels the world to champion the evolution of consciousness for humanity. And it's my pleasure to welcome Pete Smith. Welcome, Pete.
Hi, Vibeke. It's so lovely to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to spend this precious moment in time with us. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world, Pete, and who better to talk about this than you? So would you please just share a little bit about the Institute for Quantum Consciousness and your work?
Well, we felt that there was a crossover between spirituality and quantum physics. And quantum physics, being the science of possibility, opens up new realms of thought everywhere. And consciousness is the lifeblood of the universe. So when you put the science of possibility with the lifeblood of the universe, that's where we get quantum consciousness from. And I guess after many years with the Michael Newton Institute as well, there was some new trends appearing in that work, and we had to chase them. And the further that I went into quantum physics, the more I saw it had spiritual roots, if you like, that could be explored. Now, when you start to put the two of those together, then the universe is open to all manner of possibilities backed by science, and we see ourselves in a different light.
When you talk about spirituality and consciousness, or quantum consciousness, would you try to describe the difference, please, in how you interpret them? I mean, I find it kind of hard. Spirituality for me is a higher sense of consciousness, if you wish. It's another dimension to me. But how would you define quantum consciousness? Did I make myself clear? I don't know exactly, but yeah.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
No, of course you did. There's two pieces to this, of course, because spirituality is this incredible discovery of who we really are. And for my mind, spirituality is about understanding that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. That this is not who we are. This is simply a disguise, and we're here to learn. What we've found in quantum consciousness is we are a multidimensional being, not just here, but everywhere where our consciousness resides. So whereas one shows us our eternal self, the other one shows us our expanded self, that we are universal beings. We're not just humans here in physical form. If we put the two of those together, then we are the eternal multi-dimensional being. Then we can go anywhere and we can do anything, and we become limitless. And those two dimensions come together into one truth of who we really are.
That's exciting. I question then, how did you come about that within yourself? How did that play out?
Well, as you know, and still are involved in the Michael Newton Institute for a long time, and that helped me to understand the nature of the superconscious and who we are beyond this physical specimen. So to have experienced that for myself personally is something that set me free from any form of human limitations in my belief systems. But I guess we're naturally explorers of the universe, and for me that wasn't enough. So where do you go beyond this knowing of your superconsciousness, and how do you make a contribution to humanity to help others learn the same? And when I started to see the possibilities of quantum theory, and these quantum guys have been talking about this stuff for a long time. They've been talking about the many worlds theory since the 1950s. They've been talking about string theory all through the 80s and 90s as the theory of everything. That there are, if you look at M theory, which is the culmination of 5 different versions of string theory that was done back in the 90s, M theory tells us that there are 11 dimensions. One is time, and the other 10 are dimensions of space. So the maths proves that there are more dimensions out there. And whilst we might be trapped here in this physical body, we might believe that we are, this body can become a portal for our awareness to travel to these other places and make the discoveries for ourselves. When I started to do that and started to explore some of these other dimensions personally, then it brought it into my line of sight that we are limitless. We are only limited by our imagination or by what we believe. And if we drop some of those beliefs about everything that we've ever been told, then it frees us up to explore so much more. I think, Vibeke, what we've done in humanity is that we have honored the intellect, and we've forgotten our expanded self, and we've put too much emphasis on materialism and academia and the thinking processes, when we should be looking for the expansiveness of who we are beyond the body, because the body is just a portal through which we can access all of these other dimensions. The body is no less important than these other places, because the body and our human persona is what makes these explorations possible in the first place.
Mm. It's such a huge. When you speak, I'm being drawn. I'm following you. I mean, I'm listening, but I'm listening with my whole being, and I feel drawn. Like when you talk about being the portal. Where am I going with this? Um, every human being is a portal for something greater, and we channel our souls, or we channel other um, spirits, if you wish, when we connect, especially when we do that during life between lives hypnotherapy. But what about the oneness? What about that super consciousness of oneness? How do we become channels of that as a portal? How would you explain
Mm.
that?
Well, there's a thing called wave theory in quantum physics, and a lot of people have heard of the double slit experiment. And do particles travel as unique individual particles, or do they travel as a wave? And the interesting answer to some of those questions becomes, we are both. We are both the particle and we are the wave. For me, oneness is that, if I extrapolate that out from the micro world into the macro world, I am a human, but I'm also part of humanity at exactly the same time. So we live this incredible duality. I mean, I'm a spiritual being and I'm a human being. I think that the universe is based on oneness plus the unique expression of our consciousness as individuals, but together we remain one, regardless of our individual journey that we take. So we are both the particle and the wave. And it's that duality that gets us confused sometimes because, we're taught that we're either one thing or the other. That's our human mindsets, that's our education systems. They're taught to be black and white. But the beauty of all of that is that the universe exists in shades of grey. And depending on which type of or shade of grey we want to work with in one particular time, we can create the landscape around ourselves. Like I can see myself right now as a person here that's working with you, and we're sending a message to the people. But all we're doing for those people is we're helping them to remember who they really are, because everything that we're saying right now they already know. So our role is to help them to remember and to understand that they are so much more than they've ever been told. This is the great mystery of being human, is that we are magnificent beyond our knowing, and we've never been told. In fact,
Yes.
people have gone out of their way to hide this from us for whatever other agendas, and perhaps it's not a day to talk about those things. But I feel that we are in a state of remembering as humanity as who we really are, what our purpose is in being here, and exactly how we're going to change the world.
What do you think about the shift or the challenges that we've been faced with the last 2 years with the pandemic and now war in Europe? Um, what is your perspective on what's going on, the shift of this consciousness? Do you think it's um, part of the shift, or is it just, well, I wouldn't say anything is coincidental, but I guess I'm asking you, is what's going on part of the shift, the great shift?
I think this is a point of choice, and it can be a great awakening, or it can take us in another direction. And that I believe the universe works on the basis of free will at both the individual and collective levels. And as you know, in the Newton Institute, we did some research about 18 months ago into the pandemic. And 25 of our people went into this deep and beautiful state. And I'll just do a summary for the sake of our listeners here. But 25 people went into their superconscious state and were asked, what is the greater purpose of this pandemic? What is the bigger picture from spirit as to what's happening? And without going through reams of research, and I'll cut to the chase, we were told basically that we have to make a choice between love and fear.
Mm.
And that in the pandemic, we had been given a choice. It's like everything is set up on the table for humanity. And uh, this phenomenon, I'm going to call it, some people call it a pandemic, some people call it a mystery, some people call it some other things,
Mm.
but I'll call it a phenomenon. This phenomenon came and it wiped everything off the table, cleared the tablecloth of everything that we thought was important that was sitting on the table. And we now have a choice of whether we want to put those things back on the table. And everybody has had, if you like, enforced reflection time. They've had to sit with themselves to understand the things that are holding them back, if they were ready to. And so many people are seeing life differently than what they were before. And as a result, I think the consciousness of humanity has spiked
Mm.
in a way that shows a greater activity in the ways they measure it, like through the Schumann resonance. If your listeners are familiar with that, that measures the magnetic field of the Earth and human consciousness interacting with that magnetic field, and it spikes when there's collective thought unfolding before big events that happen around the world. I believe that from a little bit of the research I've seen, the Schumann resonance has been sort of spiking endlessly over the last couple of years, and for me, that echoes a huge shift in the consciousness of humanity. And I think that that's going to bring us new possibilities, new horizons, and we're going to reject the old ways that we've been subjected to for a long period of time. I think we're all in the space of where we're going to make our individual discoveries about who we really are, and collectively, humanity will surge from here.
That's, oh, I get filled with so much excitement when you talk about that because I really do feel that. I truly feel
Mm,
that's why I call it a shift because I guess I've shifted within myself as well through these 2 years. Like you said, I had to look at myself, look at things that didn't work in my life. And I actually found out that what used to give me purpose no longer fulfilled me. And I had to kind of dig even deeper and go into and discover new layers to what was blocking my true self or my authentic self, if you wish. And by doing that, I became more vulnerable, more open, more loving, and I sensed more. I sensed the joy, the peace, what you're talking about. I could start feeling that. That's what I call the heart vibration. I could feel myself being drawn to my heart instead of my mind when I met people or I spoke to people. It was like a magnetic field, like you said. I was just drawn to that magnet of the heart and allowing that to be that channel of love, if you wish. And it brings so much hope, I think. And so my question, I guess, then is, how does hope bring the energy of hope? You said that when a lot of people now, we've gone through this, that's why I decided to do this podcast or season two,
mm.
because I wanted to see, and a lot of people said, well, I need to reinvent myself. What used to work doesn't serve me anymore. So how do I do that? Who truly am I, and how can I serve in the world? And I never heard that before, like people asking that kind of question. So could you, how does hope play into this?
I think that hope is very powerful and hope moves mountains. But what moves mountains even further than hope is certainty. And one of the things that we did about 18 months ago was we put together the 2028 discussion groups. And I shot a short video, like a time travel video, standing in 2028 and saying what the world had become and how remarkable it was for meta science and the vibrational medicine and the new world leadership that faced, that worked for the people and the planet, and they came together to build new projects all around the world that restored the pieces that were damaged, both physically and, we built new industries on the back of that. Everybody had free energy. So, we started these discussion groups across 5 different key areas of these activities. And we got people to start to stand in 2028 and talk about how remarkable the world was. And people would host like discussion groups, and they'd go to somebody's house and they'd meet once a month and they'd do one of the 5 different areas, whether it was meta science, global leadership, whatever it might be, all of it with a higher vibration. Now, what those people are doing is they're making this new world a self fulfilling prophecy, and they stand there as if they're in 2028, and they bring it into being because we do create our own realities. We know that the subatomic particles of this universe respond to our intention. That's what the whole double slit experiment was about. That's what they discovered with the observer effect, like over 100 years ago now. They first started to look at the particles of light. So we can actually stand in a place of certainty that our future will be better, and we project it from that place back into here, and everything then starts to move towards that as a self fulfilling prophecy. So the 2028 discussion groups have been fantastic for little groups of people getting together, having these conversations, and creating the new planet from our own intention.
Wow. That, wow. I never thought about doing it that way, Pete. I mean, I do have my own groups that I work with, but I guess what is the English word for it? I can't find it right now, but projecting yourself out into the future in a way and then playing out what's already happened and just that power of that coming together. What if all of humanity would do that? That would be powerful. So, what do you think? How can we get there, Pete? Like in an individual level to the large
Well,
scale? How can we get there?
I think the first thing we need to do is to rid ourselves of the negative influences around ourselves. And if I can be as bold as to say, turn off the news on television. and that's a great first start. Newspapers have always been about telling a story that suits the people who own the newspapers, and that's okay too. That's just life as we know it. But it's time for us to move past the external propaganda and look for internal resonance. Okay, the truth of what we want in the world can be found within us because we are the particles that make up the wave that is humanity. When we find within ourselves courage and compassion and, you know, a, a sense of moving towards a better planet and taking our energy in that direction, and we find that internally, and then we start to find other people who vibrate at the same frequency that our ideas do, and people are coming together in larger and larger groups in order to help create a better world. I'm in a rural community in Australia, and there are a lot of people who are finding the like-minded ones and coming together and building strength, coming forward with ideas. People are starting to run for parliament who've got some of these ideas. As you probably know, my country has been ravaged by restrictions and mandates for this phenomenon that we've faced in the last couple of years. And the people are now coming together to say, well, no, this doesn't feel right to us. This doesn't resonate for us. There must be a better way to do this. And we're heading into a period of time where we're having elections at the national level. And we have the politicians just a little bit worried. So we'll see how that pans out come end of May.
How exciting! I mean, this is really a transformational or reinvention of Mother Earth after this phenomenon. And we all can be part of that. I think that's really brings a lot of hope my way. I think for going through what I felt was kind of like a dark period of my life, I know I chose that myself, but I had to take the opportunity. Like you said, it was brought on the table. I had to go through to find out what really my purpose was and where I went out of alignment with that and how I created stories that I fulfilled somehow. And then finding after coming out of this and looking at that and going, this is where does that come from? And then I see the layers of adopted patterns and things, and coming right in my face, to be honest. And then going, okay, so what do I choose? And you said it so beautiful because we can choose love or fear. That's the thing. And I started intuitively, not thinking about what you said. I just started to stop myself when I felt myself wanting to put up the wall or take back a pattern or just protect myself. I would go, Vibeke, what do you choose? Love or fear? So intuitively, I feel like the energy, the shift of this new energy, it's just if you're allowing yourself to go through this period, being open, vulnerable, and really standing your ground. I mean, being grounded within your vessel or your human body and experiencing and seeing what earth do I want to be part of? I mean, how do I want to live? So, looking to Australia and looking at what's going on in the world on the bigger scale, we can see that different communities, societies are handling this kind of different, I would say. So, what do you think needs to happen, Pete, for deep religious communities to be able to open up to this, what's going on, to let go of those dogmas, if you wish? What do you think must happen?
I think we need to trust our intuition because there's a part of us that knows that something is amiss. And truth has its own resonance. And when we look at the news or we read a newspaper or somebody tells us something, there's in my country they call it a BS detector, but there's a piece of intuition that goes off and tells us, no, this doesn't resonate for me. This is not my truth. My truth lies elsewhere. Now, when they listen to that voice within and they know that that's not true, then they'll by default go looking for what is true. And then somebody else will give them a different theory and they say, well, yeah, that sounds pretty right. So I think naturally people are seeking resonance and they're looking to move towards a better understanding of the truth. Some people are very enrolled in what's happening in the world. Um, for generations, we've been told what to think, and this is the age of free thinking.
Mm.
And you know, there's the media tells us that there's conflict in somewhere like the Ukraine right now, and some people are saying they're not saying these people are right or that people are right. People are saying we don't think there should be conflict. People are actually craving peace. Now, that's something that unites the whole of humanity, that we would crave peace. So, as a collective consciousness, if we all crave peace, then, and including the people involved in the conflict, then that conflict can't continue because humanity raises to a vibrational level where conflict is unnecessary. Everything is vibrational, and we drive our own vibration from our thoughts, our actions, and our deeds. So if we choose the higher path at the individual and collective level, then the world will change. And those people who are trying to get us to take these other decisions, to enroll us in the drama, they simply lose their power.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. They lose their power. And you can feel that, like, I'm reflecting, I'm bringing it back to one human being again, just to help the listener a little bit. It's finding peace within yourself, just doing that kind of work and bringing stillness. That's when you open yourself up to explore and experience and embody the higher vibrations. And by allowing yourself to do that, you will have that new truth, your truth, which will be kind of the catalyst, I would say, for you to go out and wanting to shift or to make a contribution or bring peace, because your energy brings peace. And I feel like in this time there's so many things we're hearing, so much, like you said, stop watching the news, right? You kind of said it like that, just for, at least limit the your input in what you observe. But what else can we do as humanity at this moment, as an individual? What do you think is the best, through your perspective, to come into that shift or that consciousness and start feeling that peace within? Do you have a practice or anything that you do that works very well, that anyone can do?
Yeah. Well, let me give some context first, and then I'll move into that, because there's something about us understanding the oneness and the ripple effect of what we do, and then that gives us the incentive to do something about it. So let's say that you have had one of these conversations. You've had the dark period that you described even for yourself, Vibeke. So you have that period of time, and then you find your light. So when you find your light, it's like you're doing that not just for yourself, but on behalf of humanity. Okay. Now, if you find your light, it that transfers to the next generation, because we are all quantumly entangled generation to generation to generation, and we have patterns that go back through our ancestors. And a lot of people talk these days about intergenerational issues that are finally being cleared. People are actually incarnating into family lines to stop those patterns. Now, if you choose to be the light, then that sets your ancestors free and it sets your descendants free. So I'm talking about sort of back in time and forward in time. But then in this moment, it spreads sideways because you are quantumly entangled with all the people that you come across, whether it's somebody in the grocery store, whether it's a cab driver when you jump in the back of a taxi. And if you carry this vibrational frequency with you, then it passes sideways across the whole of humanity as well. So, if we set the history of humanity free from our ancestors, if we set our descendants free and bring another future, and we send this sideways out from ourselves to other members of humanity, then that light starts to get stronger all around the planet, outside of time and space. So the first thing that I'd say to all of our people is, whatever you do to raise your vibration, know that this is actually affecting more than just you. You're doing it on behalf of your ancestors, on behalf of perhaps your children, the generations that follow, on behalf of the rest of humanity. Everything that we do to raise our own vibration goes straight into the collective consciousness. So, as for a practice itself, one of the things that we put out with the Transcendence Adventure was a series of 9 meditations that are out there on our website for free. It's based on the Pelican artwork. It's all been filmed in a beautiful rainforest, and there's some positive vibrational words that go with it as well. So, but there's a million different meditations. So even to find, one of the 10 million of them on YouTube or other people's meditation sites to learn how to do it yourself, anything that people can do to raise their vibration, to go for a walk in nature, that's good for humanity. To let somebody in traffic, that's good for humanity. To stop and have a kind word with somebody who's collecting coins just so they can have their dinner tonight, that serves humanity. If we become a planet of people who do small and positive things for each other, then all of the rest of the things that are holding us back will simply go away. Because I do believe that the power of love is the strongest energy in the whole of the universe,
Mm.
and we can express it in 100 different ways every day, not just to the people that we love,
Yeah.
but to smile at a person walking down the street. That's good for humanity.
Mm.
Some of these answers are really, really simple,
Yeah.
but no one smiles while they're watching the news. No one smiles while they're picking up a newspaper to see the latest headline stories that are bringing fear into our energy fields. It's about saying no to some things and yes to the things that raise our vibration. And then we, if you like, we leave the mindsets that are holding humanity stuck, and spirit wins.
And spirit wins. Wow. And it can be that easy. Thank you for sharing that. It's just a reminder of the small things, that who we truly are. If we listen and we're present in the now, we can feel all these things. And I must admit, I have a dog, which, I feel really connected to. And she came into my life at a specific moment, and I knew she would come because I'd seen her prior. And I told my husband about it. She came to me actually in between dimensions. I was not sleeping. I was not awake. She jumped on me, and I was like, suddenly I was awake. And I walk with her, um, and I speak with her, and we tune in, and we can just the connection we have. We're in nature, and we just stop and we listen, and we're present, and we hear the birds, we hear the trees, the wind, everything. It fills you up. That's the only thing that exists in that moment. And to feel that energy and how that can really keep you going through the day. It's just a small thing. Just like you said, smile to somebody, get a smile back, say hi, have a short conversation, be curious. I think that's the easiest part that all of us can do, Pete. So thank you for sharing that and just reminding us of the small things in life. It doesn't have to be, because when we do talk about quantum consciousness, it's huge, right? I mean, it's huge.
Abs-
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yes, so
absolutely.
just bringing it back
But we can,
into the small. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
yeah, and we can use the principles of quantum physics to overcome that magnitude, because everything is connected.
Yeah.
We're quantumly entangled with everything around us. So, what I'd like to say to people is, choose what you entangle with. Choose the right people, choose the right activities, choose the right mindsets, choose the right things that raise your vibration and not the ones that lower it. If you got somebody that's really, takes you down, then step back. Energetic discernment is really important these days. A lot of people are feeling the energies very strongly. A lot of people are more empathic these days. And it's a really important thing for the universe itself for you to manage your energy field in a way that bolsters it and not in a way that drains it. And people need to make those individual energetic decisions. I often say to people I work with, if you don't want to go to that function, don't go. If you don't want to go to, something that lowers your vibration, then make the decision not to. Don't feel obligated. And these little things help us to express our unique individuality and to be more authentic. And of the 8 billion people on this planet, no two are the same. So authenticity for all of us is a gift. We've got to be who we came here to be.
Oh, I like that. We have to be who we came here to be. Powerful. I know that, but when I hear you say it, it's still powerful. I think that I just appreciate our conversation. I mean, when I find myself, I do a lot of reading. I love to explore. That's why I do Spiritual Quest. I mean, I know I'm on a journey and I need to learn more. I need to be open to new perspectives, and just be curious of learning new ways, if you wish. And even though we know all these things, sometimes when we have those conversations, going back to that group, that in 2028 group, and having that kind of conversation on how we want the world to be, and see ourselves in that, and then create that, and then look back. Wow, that's powerful. And I want to ask you one final question around that, because I want to ask you, why 2028?
Because eight's infinity and our future is limitless.
Wow. Once again, powerful. No
Yeah.
coincidences. It's all there, right? All there. But I have one more question
Yeah.
for you, because I'm curious myself. Because doing a lot of life between lives hypnotherapy training and assisting others, I've seen people travel to other worlds and and also activating parallel lives. But I want your take on this. How does parallel lives affect this life or that life, or
Are you,
yeah,
mm. Are you talking alternate realities? When you say parallel lives, other
yeah,
versions of Pete or Vibeke that are in other places?
yes.
Yeah. Under the quantum physics modeling, they talk about how we make a decision, we create another reality. And rather than sort of collapse the wave function, we go off into these other universes that continually form in a limitless way. We're always quantumly entangled with those other versions of ourselves. And we can make contact with them because of that entanglement. And for the last 7 or 8 years, we've been helping people contact alternate versions of themselves so that they can learn from them, exchange information. What happened when you went your way and I went my way? We bring these people together for incredibly powerful conversation that raises the vibration of both versions. So we are multidimensional. There is so much that we can learn from the other paths taken. There are no wrong turns because we went in both directions anyway. Now, when we start to understand that we are multidimensional and that there are other aspects of us out there that are learning more and more, and we're entangled with them enough to make contact, then we can start to live in a multidimensional way that allows us to draw the lessons from other timelines. And that's had incredible repercussions for our work. And we wrote about this in the book as well with some case study examples. But what it can do is it can validate this timeline. But if there's something to be learned from one of the others, and we get that knowledge in this one, then that only helps us at this end as well. So once we understand that time and space is malleable in terms of where we can send our awareness anywhere in the universe where our vibration can call us to because we're entangled with it, we can use the benefits of that in this timeline
Mm.
by understanding more of ourselves and what we can learn from the other versions. So it's a fascinating way to live a life knowing that, well, one of me must have solved this problem somewhere else in the universe. So I'm going to dial up that version of me and ask them how they did it.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, and that's what we've been doing in a workshop that we do called Ultimate Consciousness, where we teach ultimate consciousness practitioners to take clients on such a journey. So once we start to move into the knowing that there's more to this than just us, and that our awareness is transportable in the field of consciousness that is as wide and long as the universe is, without its limits, we can go anywhere and we can do anything. One of the things you mentioned there as well was life on other planets. Absolutely. I mean, we're just the Milky Way galaxy, and there's a billion stars in our galaxy. We only really know one of them. NASA tell us there's another 2 trillion galaxies in the known universe. So how much is out there waiting for us? And we don't have to get stuck here in these physical bodies. We can transport our awareness across time and space and explore some of those realms. And that's what we've been doing with our interdimensional work. Where is it that we want to go? What do we want to explore? Once we get a sense of bringing ourselves up and out of our body, then all of this is waiting for us to be discovered.
Do you think that some people automatically do this when they sleep? They go to these worlds or parallel lives to connect. That it's a kind of in the subconscious mind that you're questioning your journey here in this timeline. And then while you, if you have that intent that I want to do, I want to learn more, I want to connect, and you fall into sleep, do you think there's possibilities that people travel?
I feel that most people would be absolutely blown away if they really knew what their awareness was doing while their body slept. I mean,
Please
we have
share.
this amazing, yeah, yeah, we have this amazing, unbelievable awareness, um, consciousness, soul. I mean, however you want to sort of talk about this extra piece of us that goes beyond the physical. I mean, it's here to experience as the physical. I mean, why is it going to stay there in bed for like 7 or 8 hours every night when it's come here to explore and to learn and to grow? I mean, doesn't it make logical sense that it would just shoot the hell out of there and go and find something to do? People talk about lucid dreams and they talk about, wow, I had this amazing dream. It was so real. Well, yeah, well, maybe that's because it was. I believe that is a great expression of the multidimensional nature of ourselves, is that we go on these incredible journeys and we just don't remember, because it would blow the human circuitry so much that it's best if we forget when we wake up in the morning.
Mm. Do you think by raising your consciousness that you actually remember more, that you can see more, your energy is more receptive, and you become more conscious?
I think by Yeah, I think by having the intention to remember, we can
So all you
remember.
need is the intention to
Most,
remember.
yeah, and a bit of practice, I would think. I mean, it's not easy to hold um, the clear resonance in this world that is just so busy,
Mm,
and for us to be able to change that a little bit is really, really important. So I feel that if we have, it's not enough to have a meditative practice anymore, I don't think. And that's worked so well for so many people for so long. But I think we need to practice our multidimensional self whenever we possibly can.
mm,
And the more practice we have it, and you might have somebody to help you. And, there's lots of great organizations around the world, and you and I are a part of one of them, and there's others as well, to get good, solid people to help you to understand how to expand your awareness, and then to take the reins yourself and to start to explore, to do, different types of meditations that draw you out of your body and set you free. Have the courage to do that, start to live life in a multidimensional way, and the world around you becomes multidimensional. Now, that gives you a lot of power once you understand that your intention can create, once you understand that you're not held back by the conditioning of you know, um, what they have told us over most of our lives. This is how you're meant to be.
mm,
Well, we can just say no to that. Say, no, I'm going to discover who I really am. I'm not going to be who you want me to be.
mm,
And
mm.
once we start to taste that freedom, we chase it and make it stronger.
I started my, when you were talking, I was like, I was getting images of a time I think I was around 18, and I had moved away from home, and I was staying with my grandparents. They were out of the country, and I was just watching their house. And I remember I saw a TV show about our guides on the other side. And I remember having the intention, because she said the word says that you have the intention, you ask. And I remember, since I've grown up with Zadius and I saw him as a child and played with him, and I closed down, I knew there was a world or a dimension to me that I've locked and I didn't know how to open it. So I thought, okay, so I'll ask for assistance. And I remember asking, I want to see you, please come and visit. And I remember it was on a Monday. On a Thursday, early in the morning, I was walking from sleep, and I just felt, I heard a voice inside myself, and they said, go to the bathroom. And I go, no, 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 I'm getting up in 2 hours, I'm not going to the bathroom. And then I heard, go to the bathroom. And I go, okay, I have to go to the bathroom. You didn't reflect on that before, after the event. And then I went to the bathroom, and as soon as I lay down in the bed, this huge light, white light, grayish light, I would say, started as a small ball, and it just expanded by the window. And I could hear the rain, because it was raining outside, so that rain was hitting the window. It was dark in the room, and it just became larger and larger. And out from that portal, if you wish, that light, comes an elderly man. I remember I was shocked. And growing up with Saudis, I wouldn't think I would be shocked, but I was 18. This happened in this dimension. I heard, I was here. I was laying in bed. I just went to the bathroom. I heard the toilet go. And here comes this light. And here comes this man out of this portal. And he didn't even look at me. And I remember how he was dressed and how he looked. And he was looking at his watch. And he was just going like this. And he walked past me. And this Indian woman came, and she had this beautiful thing on. And I remembered that I've asked for them to show up. So I put my hand out, and I could see she touched me. I didn't feel anything, but I was watching her stroke my hand. And I looked, because I was laying down, she was standing over me. And I just said, thank you. And then I saw another man come, and I just remember closing my eyes and saying, I've seen enough. And I opened my eyes again, and everything was gone. It was like, what happened? And I started to pinch myself. So I was blue on my arm, because I was like, what happened? And I just ran to the phone, and I called my mother. It's early in the morning, and she was in another city, and she was like, what's going on? She was so afraid. And I was like, no, 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 I just saw people come out of the door or the wall. It was just such an amazing experience. And that really opened me up to the experience that there's so much more to what we're not seeing. But I had the opportunity to see, and I know there's so many people, Pete, that want that experience, to be able to really say, okay, I believe now. Do you think that that is one unique for the souls or the journeys that we're on? Or can anybody, by setting that intention, wanting something to manifest in that physical dimension of ours, are we open to receiving that? Because it's never happened to me again, even though if I'm asked.
Well, I think you had the experience that you asked for.
Mm.
And, that was, that's the first thing that comes to mind when we're talking about this today. So clearly it made such a beautiful impression on you that the job was complete. You didn't need it again. And if we are open, if we ask for an experience that puts us in touch with spirit, I mean, if you say, I want to see a blue dog and a green horse, then that's a bit harder for the universe to manufacture for you. But if you say, give me an experience that shows me what the universe can offer, then you might have an experience come forward that is quite remarkable. You might see a spaceship in the sky. You might see somebody walk down the street that passed away 10 years ago. You might see any sort of thing that shows you the multidimensional nature of who we are. The more open we are to the messages of the universe, the greater the universe's opportunity to respond and to give us the message that we truly need. You know, so I've speak to a lot of people who've seen off-world activity. They've seen off-world beings. They've seen maybe something in the sky, whatever it might be, and something happens for them now, and they say, "Oh yeah, well, there's life on other planets. I know there is because I saw this 20 years ago." And it's a shift of mindset through personal experience. Um, you know, like you will say, I know that there's multidimensional realities because I experienced it when I was 18.
Mm,
And, you know, you've known it was true since then. So that's no doubt shaped your path as everything has unfolded since.
mm. Beautiful.
So for people to say, you know, show me that there's more, and then be open to whatever that may be, can be really, really powerful.
Mm. I think that's beautiful, and I want that to be the thing that you take away. You who's listening today, so just be open and ask, and just allow yourself the opportunity to experience it. I think the allowance might be very important here. That if we're like we said, choose love or choose fear, choose love and say it from a place of love. I think anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I was going to say to ask for that experience to be bound by love is so important because that'll bring you the highest possible vibration in that experience. So, yeah, absolutely what you said.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Pete. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you again, and it's always interesting and fascinating and exciting. I mean, I always learn a lot listening to you, so I really do appreciate it. And for you who's listening or watching, I'll make sure that all the information to Pete and the Institute for Quantum Consciousness, the link is in the episode summary. So if you want to get in contact with Pete or check out his course or his book, do you have your book nearby so you can show us, Pete?
I've got a very old battered version, and it looks something like this.
Quantum
That's my
Consciousness. There
reference
you go.
copy. So,
Yeah. So where can
excuse
we?
the.
Is it on your website or is it on Amazon or where can we?
Uh, it's on all the Amazons. It's on all the online bookstores. There's actually, if anyone is listening from Sweden, there's actually a Swedish translation now as well. Nothing in Norwegian yet, unfortunately.
Well, yeah,
But
maybe you never know, Pete. Never know.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're
that'll
putting
happen.
it out there.
Let's
You're
do an
putting it
intention.
out there now. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Pete. It's been a pleasure. And to you watching or listening now, remember to join the conversation. Sign up for the Spiritual Quest Newsflash so that you can send me questions so I can ask my guests and have them answer. And not only that, you can join upcoming live events and ask your own personal questions. So once again, thank you, Pete, and thank you for listening. Hope to see you again. Bye bye now.